Once upon a time there was a small zoo called Hoenderdaell. It sat in the north of the Netherlands and it had a free-flying bird show. It was a very traditional show, where birds were called to the glove and sat on blocks and perches outside of the show. Tethered, of course.
Training consisted of handling the birds on the glove. Endlessly. And yes, he's actually reading a bedtime story to his bird. Not all the birds liked it. Weighing was done by simply picking the bird up and putting it on the scale. When training the birds to fly to the glove, the first step was to hold up the foot, luring them to come, and then increasing the distance until they were ready to fly free.
But times were changing. People started thinking, and more people did not like the old way. Some groups even made a list with everything that was wrong with bird shows. But Hoenderdaell wants to keep educating people, and with the list in mind, they tried to find a solution. Birds had to get more freedom, no more tethering, free choice of participants. The avitorium was the result. The avitorium has big aviaries with plants and high and low perches, and an automated hatch to enter the show arena on a quest. We just had to train them to do so. Easy. Yeah, right. No surprise, we had some challenges and troubles. As the birds were no longer wearing jesses, there is no physical control. The new aviaries are high, 7 meters to be precise. From now on, the birds have to choose to come to us. Or not.
Our solution: positive reinforcement training. But what kind of bridge are we going to use? Clicker?
Claps. Okay.
Verbal okay? Our old whistle? Finally, we decided on a new whistle, just for practical reasons.
Oh, just admit it, you wanted to look like a dolphin trainer.
Then we had to teach the birds what the bridge meant, the promise of food. They had to learn that food would come, even if they didn't see it. From there on, we could start training them. First in low aviaries and still wearing their jesses.
Even basic husbandry was now a challenge. Simple things like weighing and touching had to be trained all from the start.
Instead of picking them up and just putting them on the scales, they had to learn to come voluntarily. Some birds had no prior experience with the scales. With them, we took a playful approach. Others, like Jack, shown in this video, were fearful. Jack had been weighed old school before, and we never saw any fearful behavior. But now he had a choice, and he just didn't want to be weighed. So we had to train it step by step. Now he comes down for his weighing session all the way from the top of his aviary, as do all the birds.
For a good health check, it is important to be able to touch the bird. We need to check the feet for bumblefoot. Obviously, the wings are important for a flying animal. And the chest for the basic condition check.
This training is not always without risk. We do have some battle scars.
Now the basics of husbandry are covered, we can get creative. Things like target training and even some crate training. After we figured out how to train the birds, we had to get the team on board. Most of our team members are volunteers. They only have experience with the old style of training. So we had to train them as well.
We organized a theoretical course after work. Of course, we also did the clicker game, to make our team members realize how animals feel when being trained. And just because it's fun. We still keep on guiding them during the day.
In the new situation, some birds no longer sit alone, but are put in group aviaries. This means individual training and feeding is no longer an option.
To prevent aggression and food stealing, we trained every bird to go to his own station. We started with a trainer for every bird. Step by step we reduced the amount of trainers until only one trainer is needed for 5 birds. For some birds we even use movable stations. So we can train them wherever we want. Some birds are very difficult to tell apart. To make it foolproof, we color-coded the birds as well as their stations.
The ultimate goal is that all birds enter the show area flying through a hatch or door. But most of us probably don't realize, but doorways are very scary things. Some birds had no trouble flying out, but of course they needed to go back in again. And that is a challenge all by itself.
Sometimes it takes a few tries. And sometimes they just seem to play with you. Others need a little bit more persuasion. Or help. And trust me, that gives the audience a good laugh.
So we need to do a lot of door and hatch training. To make life more difficult, the hatches are on a height of approximately 5 meters. With some birds, adding a sound cue works very well.
And for some birds, it's no problem at all. Our redtail and Harris hawks fly in and out, using the hatch without any problem.
Being ambassador birds, they have to get used to big groups of people. Our stage can seat up to 500 people. But for some birds, this was a little bit more difficult.
In the old way, we could prevent them from flying away by holding their jesses. But that is no longer an option. Now we reward the birds for sitting on the glove close to people. Getting closer step by step. In the show area as well as in their aviaries. We started with tryout shows with a limited amount of people. In the end, it turned out not to be as big a problem as we were afraid of. Most of the birds are perfectly comfortable getting close to the people.
To add to our challenge, we not only needed to retrain our original birds, our collection of birds more than doubled. All young birds that needed to be trained as well. Construction continued until less than 2 weeks before opening. So all of our training had to be done in between, sometimes very noisy, construction work.
Circumstances were sometimes less than ideal. We started training in a completely empty area. A nice example, our kites flew very well in this empty area. But the last step of construction was building the stage. It took 6 weeks, and after this the kites refused to come out. So we had to train them again once we started doing the presentations.
Now, half a year after the opening of the avitorium, we have come a long way. We have noticed some great advantages with this new training method.
Because the birds now have more choice, they start to work better. We see higher flying weights and thus healthier birds. And we have more possibilities in behaviors we can train.
We are proud of the results so far. An educational presentation which is different every day and where birds can choose to participate.